I'm Uncle Mike from Country Radio, and welcome back to Hope Rocks Recovery, the Hope Answers podcast. We're here. I'm really humbled and honored to be here with some warriors in the room with us. You're going to meet them in just a second. But the point of this podcast, as Frankie and Sean are going to talk about, is we're trying to crush stigma is what we're trying to do. That's the main goal. And we want everybody to know that everyone in this room wants to help. And Frankie and Sean are really qualified to help. We'll explain that as we go on, too. But also in the room with us is the founder of Hope Rocks, Joe DeFino. He's the mastermind behind this whole production. Joe, how are you, buddy?
I am great, and it is so good to be back doing another edition of Hope Answers. I hope everybody's doing as well, and we're really excited to bring you another great edition and inspiration and the impetus to live the life that you deserve. So with that.
Absolutely. So over in the corner there is my brother from another mother, my buddy, Frankie Wright. Frankie, I love you, brother. It's always great to see you. And I'm so happy we're doing this because this is going to help a lot of people.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Yeah, I am so excited about doing this. I don't really want to make this about me. A lot of people who have heard this have heard my story before. But I am super excited to introduce I will tell you someone who I am honored to call, we may not be blood, but he is my brother. He has been a crucial part of my recovery pretty much since about my first month of being sober. I met him, and in the meetings I go to, they say I saw something I wanted, and this guy had what I wanted. I have looked up to him from day one. I have called him on my hardest days. And he has always been there for me, and I am so looking forward to him being on here and sharing his story with us. So thank you for being here, Sean.
Why don't you give him a proper introduction?
That is true. My man, Sean Kennedy.
Well, I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Frankie. And, it's an honor to be a part of something that's going to help people. I get to freely give away what was freely given to me, and that's how we do it.
So, Sean, if you could, I think we'll just start it with, we'll let Sean tell his story, right, guys?
Sounds great.
All right, Sean, take it away, bud.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to tell my story. So, my parents were never together. I mean, I'm going back, right? Like, I'm telling my story. My parents were never together, lived with my mom, moved around a lot as a little kid. I was a bar baby. Always lived in either trailers or projects, which was fine. But I grew up around a lot of violence. I watched people fight all the time. I watched people drink and party on the weekends, barbecue, summertime, every day, every weekend. And people would get drunk, high, and then there would be teeth on the ground, blood, cops. Like this was my life. I didn't really honestly think it was that abnormal, other than the fact that I had family in New York, which is where I'm from. I was born in Kingston, New York, that didn't do that. They had the same address, still have the same address, still have the same phone number. So I had some people in my family that kind of showed me what I wanted to be, because I grew up scared. Excuse me. I did not like violence. My mom and I would have to run and hide from her boyfriends or her husband, hiding behind cars. And, one particular time, we were running from my stepdad. My mom had me in front of her, and I heard a punch. I turned around. My mom was out cold on the ground. I thought she was dead. I looked at my stepdad. He looked scared, which made me terrified, and I ran back. I was living in Texas at the time, and ran back to our apartment, and I was 12 years old because my stepdad had given me a .410 shotgun for my 12th birthday, and I was allowed to keep it in my room. I wasn't allowed to keep ammunition in my room, and I ran back, and I grabbed my shotgun, and I was gonna go kill him. I thought he killed my mom. And by the time I got my shotgun and went into their room, my mom came back and she took the gun from me. But this was how it was, terrifying and scary. And we moved a lot. So I have an aunt who lives in New York, and she's everybody should have an Aunt Pat, like my Aunt Pat. And she has a whole list of addresses from when I was young. And I used to always say it was 20 or 30, and I recently just talked to her, and she said it was 42 different addresses up until I was 12. Wow. So I was in a new school, and when I'm 51 now, so back when I was younger, projects and trailer parks, you're the new guy, you're gonna fight the other kids, and then you become friends. But this was happening twice a month. So yeah, it kind of sucked. I remember moving into projects, getting chased by a bunch of kids, made it home, and my stepdad was home drunk, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm running from these kids. They're, going to kick my ass." And he threw me outside and locked the door. So I had to, went down, took my lumps, and became friends for 2 weeks. And, so it wasn't the best. It definitely wasn't fun. Lived a lot scared. And then we moved to Florida, and we were staying at my grandmother's house, which is my mom's mom. And my stepdad and my mom went out for a few days. I don't know where they were. I was talking with my grandma, and she kind of knew what was going on. She called. She said, "What would you rather do? Would you rather live with your dad?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd rather live with my dad." So we called my dad. He bought a plane ticket on the spot. And my mom's mom helped me run away from my mom at 12 years old. And, she saved my life. And, so we went back. And so I was living in that violence. And my dad was just a heroin junkie, passed out on the couch. There was no violence. I was like, this is cool. He went to work and did all that. And so, man, it was just such an upgrade. And then, what was kind of cool is my dad hid me from everything, from all the lawyer stuff. And then one day I was going to bed, and my stepmom was there, and my two brothers, I think were 5 and 1. And, one night I come home, and I'm like, where? I said, my stepmom, Mary, I said, "Mary, where's my dad?" And she said, "Oh, he's at a meeting." And, I didn't know what that meant. I knew he did construction, and so I figured it was something for work. And anyway, it turned out he was starting to get clean and sober. So, which was really cool. So my dad went from being a junkie passed out onto the couch to getting his recovery, getting sober, working the 12 steps, which I'll get into, which is what is the instruction manual for miracles in my life. And, and a really cool story that happened early on was I was going to bed one night, and I said, "Good night, Dad." And my dad said, "Good night, Sean, I love you." And I was just like, okay, yeah, I love you too. Are we supposed to say that? And, and then so that was where the recovery and the healing began with my dad, which has a ripple effect, So my dad became just somebody who wasn't violent, who became my father, and slowly started teaching me, he started helping me grow up. And, so it was great. I didn't go to a lot of meetings with him, but I went to his celebrations, went to the AA picnics, the special events, and watched my father, just come up. He got a divorce from my stepmom. Him and I moved in separately, and, it was good. And he made me walk the line, So I came back to New York in the second half of 6th grade, and I stayed in the same school district until I graduated 12th grade, Kingston High School. And, he made me walk the line, man. He was a father, He taught me what a good parent was. And now I don't want to shit on my mom. Like, she did the best she could. Like, I love my mom, and she loves me. There was no lack of love. You know, it was just how our life was. And, you know, so, yeah, I come up. I probably a little bit later to the game with drinking and partying and all that stuff because of how I grew up. So all my friends were drinking, smoking weed, you know, doing these things. And I would a little here and there, but I definitely wasn't off to the races. And, you know, then, you know, I think I was like 17 or something when I started smoking weed and, you know, and I really liked it. And, you know, so I graduated high school, you know, just regular, I guess you would call normal teenage drinking and smoking weed. You know, definitely not any consequences. I got a job. I had to work, you know, if I wanted things. One cool thing my dad taught me was like the value of money and like, you know, work for what you want. Nobody owes you shit. And, you know, so I wanted to play guitar. And I liked this Gibson Les Paul that was in the window of the music store uptown Kingston. And I would go by it all the time because we lived in Stony Run, which was near. A lot of people probably don't know what I'm talking about, but Abrams Music. And I would look on the window like the kid looking at a puppy, you know. And I was just like, I want that black Les Paul, man. And I told my dad, and he said, you save up half the money, and I will pay the other half. And so, man, I started hustling. I was, you know, mowing lawns and washing dishes, whatever it took. And my dad, a man of his word, I went to him when I had it. We went and bought that Les Paul, and I still have it. And I started learning how to play guitar, you know, which comes in a little later. So I still play guitar. I love it. You know, graduate high school, supposed to join the Marine Corps with my best friend. Like, through all this, I graduated. I was basically a good kid, and I didn't like to fight, but I still fought sometimes. And I got into a fight, broke my hand. And so right after we graduated, my best friend left for Paris Island, and I didn't. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to try school. And my dad paid for me to go to Ulster Community College. You know, I guess, you know, I kind of laugh at it because I majored in criminal justice. You know, Frankie's heard my story, man, but like, I wanted to be a crooked cop. Like, I wanted it, man. I wanted to take envelopes. I wanted to steal your drugs, like to sell. And, you know, I aced criminal justice, but like I wound up, I aced everything except English, you know, like, so I wound up failing English. And my dad was like, yeah, you know, can't have no bums living here. He's like, you gotta like get a job, do something, or get the fuck out, you know, which was appropriate. And so I called a recruiter, and I called him in the middle of January, and January 31st, I left for Paris Island. And so I was, at that point, I was smoking weed and doing this stuff. So I was like, all right, cool. Kid time's over. I'm going to give it all up. Get in the Marine Corps, and you could drink at 18 on base. You know, I loved it. I loved being in the Marines. And, you know, but I was a drinker and a fighter. And, you know, I got in trouble. You know, I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, they train me to fight, and like, I'm getting in trouble for fighting. Like, how is that cool? And you know, so yeah, I you know, got in there, and you know, do some like cool down weekends in the brig, and you know, which there's some Marines I talk to that are, you know, they kind of break my chops, saying, yeah, that's, you know, that's conduct unbecoming, and then. You know, and then I talk about, you know, some of the more famous Marines and be like, isn't that a rite of passage, actually? And, you know, but either way, like, I fucked up. So, like, I own it, you know, like, I earned my long weekends in the brig. And so I got promoted, demoted, promoted. And, you know, then when I got out, you know, I dove deep. I was living with a girl in Southern California. She became my girlfriend out there because I requested the East Coast. So, of course, the Marine Corps sent me to the West Coast. And, her and I got, into smoking a lot of weed, ecstasy, acid, like all this stuff. And these were all the things that, like, I was like, yeah, I'm never going to do that. I don't want to be that stuff that I grew up. So, this is the progression of the disease of addiction. And, and so did that, didn't necessarily get in a lot of trouble, but I started becoming bitter, thinking I was a victim of everything, wondering, I got to the point where, just felt like everybody was out to get me, poor me, like really some weak shit. And, and I just dove deeper into the drug scene, started selling a little bit. I never got in any real big trouble, which wasn't good for my ego. And, wound up moving back to New York, ran into some guys that I did garage bands with before I left for the Marine Corps, wound up joining a band. We wound up playing, little spots in New Paltz, wound up playing my first show was at the Chance in Poughkeepsie, underground hardcore. My first show was with Hatebreed, Madball, All Out War, One King Down. If anybody's in the scene, this is like a fucking bomb ass lineup. So like that's my first show, and so I dive into this, and the progression of my disease. Like this band is kind of blowing up. Like it's actually still on Spotify and all that, and. But as we're kind of coming up, I'm diving deeper, and all these things that I said I wouldn't do, I started doing. And then, I got into what I affectionately and jokingly call my higher powder. And I got into like hardcore into cocaine, bar scene. And, as it turns out, like the more drugs I do and the more, deep I dive into that scene, the less I'm able to be a part of music. And so I wound up getting kicked out of the band a couple times, and getting bitter and then just diving in. And luckily, I only got into that stuff and some other things a little here and there for only probably about 2.5 years ish. And by the end of that, it got like when I first started doing drugs and drinking, it was fun. Like I was having fun. Yeah. Like there were good times. And then it became a habit. And then it became mandatory. Like, and if anybody's ever experienced that where you don't want to use and you have no fucking choice, yes, that's where I got to. Like I quit a million times, meant it with every fiber of my being, could not stay stopped, could not, and at that point I wasn't even considered smoking weed, using. Like if I only smoked weed for 12 hours, I was clean for 12 hours, and it got to the point where, I was doing grimy shit. I wasn't a good drug dealer. I was an excellent drug user, and it got to the point where when I went out, and I went out to the bars every night of the week, my clothes were clean, my hair was, cut. I wore gold chains, nothing gaudy, but I just tried to dress myself up. But my insides were rotten, my soul was gone.
And
then, yeah, man. And then so a frequent event for me was getting home and taking a shower and being curled up in the fetal position in the shower, wondering how I got here again, And, and I also remember I knew about interventions, and I remember just trying to be so bad I would get an intervention and but it wasn't happening, which I could kind of laugh at now. I think whatever the universe, higher power is, just like, dude, you gotta make these steps yourself. Like nobody's gonna, Nobody's going to chase your recovery for you. And, because I know what recovery is. I watched my father recover. And, so, yeah, my uncle in 2002 in the spring, my uncle Steve, he passed away from cancer. I didn't go see him. He was sober for probably, over a decade. And I went to the bar and drank shots in my sober uncle's name. And a little while later, my Uncle John, a Marine, he gets sick with cancer. I don't go visit him. And then on October 5th, 2002, I'm missing in action. Not showing up to my own house, peeking out of windows. I have warrants for my arrest. I'm not answering my phone, and I get a phone call from my dad that morning, and I don't answer it, of course, but for some reason I listened to the message, and my dad just said, "Sean, I just want to let you know your Uncle John passed this morning." Click, and in my head, like that was like a pivotal point in my life. I feel like my Uncle John came up from above and just like slapped me in the head and said, "Jarhead, get your shit together."
Yeah,
dude.
man.
And I wound up driving to my dad's house. I think it was like a '94 Honda Accord, and I actually put stolen plates on it from a Honda Accord that looked like mine, so that may hopefully add a quick thing to be like, "Oh, this is Joe Schmuckatelli," but
We thought we were so smart in those days, right?
yeah, man. No, I was a moron, and so I show up at my dad's, and I go in, and I can't even I have a 10-year-old daughter now, and I can't even imagine what looking at your son the way I must have looked that day feels like, And my dad looked at me and he said, "Sean, are you done yet, man?" And I broke down, man. I was just like, I started crying, and I was just like, "Dad, I can't stop." And he's like, "I know you can't." He's like, "What do you want to do about it?" And I told him, I said, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, he said, "Do you want me to help you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "All right." He's like, "I'm going to help you." And again, a man of his word, he said, "I'm going to help you, but if you fuck it up, you're on your own." And I think that was one of the best things I could have ever heard, because I believed it. And I handed him my car keys, and that was the moment I surrendered. That October 5th, 2002, which is my sobriety date. And
My man.
yeah, man, holy crap, how does that happen? Day at a time. And so I handed him my car keys, and my uncle just passed. We're Irish, so we dragged death out for a really long ass time, and so we did multiple days of wake, and I was staying there, and then my uncle's buried in Gate of Heaven Cemetery in Valhalla, which is kind of badass, and so we do the funeral at the cemetery, bury my Uncle John, we go eat, and then the whole family, and then we leave from there, and my dad pulled some strings and got me into Veritas Villa, which I think they're no more, but that place has saved countless lives, man. And so that's where my recovery journey started. I remember walking in at night, it's a Thursday night, and, acting tough, but I was terrified, man. That place seemed so scary to me, walking up with the lights and, and just going in there. But I had surrendered, so I got to this point where I adopted some Marine Corps stuff where it was just like, dude, I'm low rank right now, so I got to do what I'm told.
That's right.
So yeah, taught not to surrender, not to quit, but also you got to do what you're told. There's a chain of command. So luckily, I was able to process that mentality, and I just did what I was told, man. And far from healed, far from sober, but I went in, I took part in all their programs to the best of my ability. The scariest thing they told me is absolutely terrifying, was the only thing I had to change was everything. And man, did that make a lot of sense, but holy shit. So yeah, I did, and like I said, I was a barroom brawler. I fought in bars a lot too, and there's like 3-man rooms, plastic baby mattresses. It's not, I remember them. What was those Malibu passages? Those commercials, man. I remember seeing those. They're like getting massages in their feet. And I'm like, man, I don't know. That's not how I got.
Sean, if I could ask you a quick question, was it you who told me about you flipped over somebody? The guy was snoring.
That's what I was just.
All right,
Yeah. Nah, man. So these beds are uncomfortable. I'm off drugs. I'm detoxing. I can't sleep, and I'm there for like 2-3 days. I got this guy in my room that snores like a banshee. like I really thought he was messing with me. It's not real. Like people don't snore the way this dude was snoring. And I tried, man. I was like, can I change rooms? No, you gotta have acceptance. And it's like I tried to go to bed early. I tried earplugs. And after a few days of like zero sleep, man, I lost my shit. I flipped this dude out of his bed. I start screaming like, if I'm not sleeping, nobody's sleeping in here. And like I got counselors cornering me, and I'm like, I don't know, like, are they gonna get physical? And but I remember when I did that, like I was a little terrified. I was like, man, I hope they don't kick me out. I need this.
Yeah.
And luckily they didn't. They put me in like this detox room. And that was when I got my first night's sleep. And, and I apologized to that dude, but, we didn't really become friends. But, yeah, I did everything that, and they said, when you get out of here, they gave you a list. They gave you instructions, so you get out of here, go to a meeting. I started out in Narcotics Anonymous. So I went to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting the very first night. And they said, introduce yourself, tell them you just got out of rehab. They said, shop for a sponsor. And a sponsor is a guide through the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous. That's, like I said, that's the instruction manual for these miracles. And they said, look for somebody that probably has, preferably a couple of years, because they know how to stay sober. And, not necessarily looking for people with houses and cars, man. Looking for maybe some peace of mind.
Yep.
And that I wanted that so bad because my head gets loaded with bees, man. It's just like it's terrible in there sometimes. And, so I did. I shopped around. I got a sponsor. He's my sponsor today, but, I complicate stuff. So he wasn't my sponsor the whole time. And I started working the steps, and they also said get a service commitment, which, kind of makes sense. It gave me a purpose, so I started making coffee at the meeting, which means you have to show up a little early, you make the coffee, and then you clean up at the end. So you got to get there early, you got to stay a little bit late. It gives me a task that I'm responsible for and gives me some purpose, and it also forces me to kind of see people like when you can talk, where the meeting's not going on. And, I did. And I joked, Frankie's heard me say this too, like I never drank coffee, before that. And then, I have a slightly addictive personality, so I developed like a $60 a day Starbucks habit, and, yeah, man. Which I can, there's a phrase in recovery, there's Rule 62, which is don't take yourself so seriously, man. And stuff was way too serious, no matter what, because I was fighting for my life. And and there was an old timer who since passed, and he used to say, I didn't get sober to be somber, So I remember thinking, like, what am I gonna do? Like, there's nothing to do. Like, my weekend started on Thursdays and they ended on Wednesdays, and so but I went to meetings. They said do 90 meetings in 90 days. I did it. Got my sponsor. I started working the steps. Step one, powerless over alcohol and drugs. Like that was freaking obvious, man. Like I had no control. And step two is finding a power greater than myself that could restore me to sanity. That happened to me when I was in the villa. It was I always believed in something. And then at the end, a couple years before the end, I was doing the foxhole prayers. God, whatever you are, say, make this go away, and I'll be good. And then I was never good. So then I stopped praying, and so when I was in the villa, something happened, and it clicked, and maybe whatever this higher power is, which I have no idea what it is, maybe it could help me, and so I respect everybody's belief, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, like whatever, like I respect it, man. If you're trying to be a good person, like I'm probably gonna steal some of your stuff, like about that, But for me personally, like my God is undefinable. So I feel like if it's defined by a human being, it's completely confined. And but my humblest definition of what my higher power is the energy in the universe, man. Like it seems like if I put out good energy, I try to help people, hold the door for someone, say hi to somebody, that's my higher power's will, And then if I do good stuff seems to attract towards me, And if I do dirt, I get dirty, which I'm still capable of, so I started doing all that stuff. Got it, I had a really slow burn on being honest in relationships. So I was dishonest in relationships, in recovery. I hurt people, and but what happened is my conscience, started growing because I wanted to be better, and I wasn't masking anything with drugs or booze or the lifestyle. And so it took me a long time, man. I got married in recovery, was unfaithful in that marriage, and that marriage ended. I did a lot of work on myself, and I've been coming up. I just had 23 years back in October, so I've been not
My
drinking.
man, congratulations, dude.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Like, holy crap, But like for the first 10, I was struggling with that stuff, So it's been, over a decade of me being a real man, like not being dishonest with women, and and it's the dishonesty. It wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't. Monogamy wasn't the problem. It was honesty. So for a while in my life, I was polyamorous, just open. Like this is cool. We can hang out. Or we don't have to hang out. But I'm going to be straight up and honest. And man, what a gift that was to just be able to sleep at night. And I got married again. Phenomenal woman, and we were together for 10 years. And a few years ago, she had to move to North Carolina, for family stuff. But we came up here from North Carolina because my daughter's up here, and I'm not leaving my daughter. And, so point being is, she had to leave. I wasn't going to leave my daughter. And, because I'm able to make these sober decisions and stay sober no matter what, because that was extraordinarily painful. And, I don't know if I'm going off on all these tangents or whatever, but this is all like life on life's terms, where it's hard to, sometimes I just wish I could not feel, like even with 23 years, sometimes I wish I could just not feel.
Now that I can truly relate to.
Yeah, but I get to play that tape all the way through, because if I do that, I'm going to come to, maybe, or I might die. And, it's just, I believe it's easier for me to stay sober today than it ever will be for me to get sober again. So, that's just a gift that's come from it. And, let's see, 14 years ago, or a while back, my dad got sick with cancer, but I was there. I was sober, man. Like I got to help him. I got to, be with him, and he fought for a few years, and then he passed away in 2011. But I was in the hospital with him, holding his hand, telling him.
You got to be present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I got to tell him that he was my hero, and that I was grateful for him. Thank you. I thanked him for teaching me how to be a real man, and so I did that. Then, for about 18 months, so many people close to me passed away. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like my aunt, my best, some of my best friends, my boss of 16 years from a small roofing company. I was in the union. He passed away. Then the company died out a year later. So it was like this horrible country song,
Uncle Mike.
Yeah, that's funny, man. Yeah, but like, it's because I can laugh now, but I was coming in and, I was just like, it felt like every other week I was like, so-and-so died. But like, I heard about this thing, Frankie's heard me say it a million times, man, this No Matter What Club. And what that is a club that we in recovery join every single day. It's no matter what happens today, like I'm not picking up a drink or a drug, man. I'm
Yes,
not
sir.
throwing it away. And, and then whoever woke up earliest and joined the club is the senior ranking member that day. So it's like there's no ego, man. It's just like people who want to live, who want to give back. And so a little while after that is, I mentioned it, man. Like my little brother celebrated a year, and then on December 30th, 2014. I was texting with him, and he was going through it a little bit. He was living in Florida, and I talked to him, and he talked him off the ledge. And the last thing we said to each other, he said, "I love you, bro," and I said, "I love you, bro." And that was the last time I spoke with my little brother. I'm 11 years older than him, so So anyway, the next day, during the day, he went to work. He made a decision, to pick up a bag of heroin, and he excused himself to the bathroom at work doing construction, and he died on his face in a shitty bathroom, And, that was, like, devastating to me. But stay sober no matter what. But that was the last casket I've carried. I told people I'm not carrying any more caskets, man. So don't die. Because if you die, I'm not going to show up to your funeral. It's no disrespect. It's just I want to remember you alive and well. My dues are paid with carrying caskets, man. I've carried too many. And, so my brother passes, dark hole, stay sober no matter what. And then I was living in North Carolina. I was seeing somebody in New York, and lo and behold, I create a human being in New York. And, I find out I'm going to be a dad. Her mom and I were seeing each other, but I was living down there, and it was just it was rough because we weren't really together. And that's a whole nother story, whatever, but we're not together. She's having the baby, thank God. And, it was just rough, and on, February 16th, 2016, I was blessed to be up in New York at Northern Dutchess Hospital. I was the first man to hold my daughter. Like, now talk about a blubbering mess, man. Like, there's nothing better, man. So, yeah. Like, if I would have thrown in the towel any time before, like, I would have none of this, So, and Frankie knows, like, that's my heart, man. Like, people know. And she's been coming to meetings to me since she was, like, this big. And now she's 10 years old. She thinks she's 18.
Yeah, I don't see her all the time. And every time I see her, she runs up, gives me a pound. And I can tell you, if you want to fill your heart, you watch this guy with her. It is something really great to see.
It's the best, man. But I went from dada to daddy to dad. Now I'm bruh, and I love it, man. I love it, And she's, I'm annoying, I'm embarrassing, but like, when the shit hits the fan, man, she wants her daddy, And man, I love being a girl dad, a sober girl dad. She's going to hold my hand for the rest of my life, man. And, we just went down to Florida, and we're going across the road, and she just grabs my hand, like, still.
Yeah.
Like, this is the good shit.
That is the stuff, man.
And yeah, so, and because of working all these steps and bettering myself and working with other people, like, these are the things that, like, there's sobriety, meaning, I'm not drinking and drugging, and I'm abstaining, and I get better. But then there's what's called emotional sobriety, and that's the stuff where you just level up. And I'm blessed with. I'm in a newer relationship. It's coming up on a year and a half now, and man, this woman is absolutely amazing. Frankie knows her too.
I agree.
Yeah, she's sober 27 years. I probably got it wrong, but I won't get in trouble because she's awesome. And we knew each other a long time ago, and we were talking. I was in my first marriage. She was in her marriage, trying to have kids. We both weren't having kids, and we were bummed out. And then years later, a few years back, we run in, and she's got kids. I got my kid, and they're in the same grade, in the same class. Like, it's so bizarre. And we were just friends, kids doing. And then it was just a perfect storm, organic, me getting out of my own way, a sober thing, like not trying to force the world to do what I want. And like, I'm in this, amazing relationship, so it's all from working these steps, man. Like, it's not going to make a lot of sense to people, but there's, the 12 steps is where it's at, man. Like, it makes me, how did I break down the 6 words, trust God, clean house, and help others.
Yep.
Help others. That's what it was. So I found this higher power. I trusted it. I cleaned my side of the street, and there's tools to keep my side of the street clean, so I don't have to hold on to like crazy stuff. And and then I do my best to help others, man. And earlier we were talking, Frankie talks, he says that I help him sometimes, but man, like, he helps me. Like, it's always a two-way street, like, that's what it is. There's the disease of addiction, alcoholism is the great equalizer, man. It doesn't care what I look like. It doesn't care what I earn. It just wants me dead. It wants me separated, and it wants me away from the herd. It wants to kill me slowly. And it wants to hurt my family, and so life is good, and that's a basic rundown of 23 years. So
thank you, Sean. Do you you mind if we ask you questions?
No, please do. Please do.
Go ahead, Uncle Mike.
So you're listening to Hope Answers, obviously, and this is one of the most riveting conversations I've ever heard. Sean Kennedy was just completely honest with us, told us his whole story, and Sean, the thing I know a little bit about recovery because of Frankie and some of the people we're involved with. Man, you faced a lot of triggers there that could have sent you back in a hurry, and you didn't. Why do you think you didn't?
Well, that's a phenomenal question, and what it is from going to meetings and watching other people do exactly that. Like, I watched in early recovery when nothing bad had happened yet. I saw a friend of mine, her husband just died. The next week, her daughter was killed in a drug thing, and then I was just like, and she's at a meeting and sharing, and she's staying sober. I'm like, what the heck, man? Like, if somebody hits my car, like, I want to destroy the world. And then there was an old gentleman passed away, and his son, he had 50 some years, incomprehensible, and his son passed away, OD'd. And died, and he was using with his other son, and a week later his other son committed suicide. Damn. He lost both of his sons from this shit, and he stayed sober. So what I realized was that we all have everybody has a million reasons to get high, to relapse, to do all this. But after seeing those warriors, that woman and that man, like, it robbed me of every single excuse I have. Like, I have no excuse. Like, and over the years, that's how. Like, I watch people who stay sober, and then that's why I share my story, because then I don't want to hear it if they're like, I lost my job and I want to get high. No, you don't have to get high, man. Like, it's going to get better.
So, Sean, one of the beauties of doing this podcast is there's thousands of people listening to us right now that are going through what you did, maybe some even worse. who maybe never had the courage to do what you did. And I'm hoping by listening to this story, first of all, we should give Joe, what's some of the ways they can get in touch with us? Because Frankie and Sean are here. If you're struggling, they want to talk to you and they want to help you. That's why we're doing this.
Well, first of all is respond to this video cast, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, just respond to it, and one of us will get back to you. And secondly, you can always email us, and throughout the program, underneath the name, you're going to see their email address. Email us. If necessary, give us a call, text us, because we will be providing phone numbers as well. So if you want to get in touch immediately, those are the avenues in which you can do that right away, and we will get back in touch with you.
Yeah, so me, Joe, and Mike on the podcast, we put our info out there, and I've pretty much explained how tight me and Sean are. So if you write and you have a specific question for Sean, I will get it to him and get it back to you right away. That's why we do this, right? I mean, Sean, I just want to touch on this. You just talked about like the warriors, right? The people who have lost people. I can vividly remember when I first got sober. I said, I'll stay sober unless something happens to my kid or unless something happens to my aunt who actually did die. And then I meet Vince and I meet Sean. They've lost the most important people to them. And instead of letting that disease say, I got you, I've been waiting. Your disease is saying, I've been waiting for that to happen because now I'm going to take you back down. They didn't. They excelled. And same thing. By me watching these people like him and Vince, it was like, yo, I'm not going to have any. Damn it. Right? I was counting on that excuse. And like my disease was talking to me. And no matter what club, Sean inducted me really quick. I wear this bracelet. I've had it on for 3 years now. And if, Sean, I'm correct, this was your brother's bracelet.
Yep, that was my brother Michael's bracelet.
Yeah, I never take it off. Sometimes little kids, when they come up, they grab me, and I'll be like, don't touch that one. And, yeah, so.
You know, it's interesting. So our first show, we had Chef Michael on with us, and in his first month of recovery, his son committed suicide. And the two of us, we just looked at each other, and how did you make it through that? And he kind of said the same thing you did. He didn't know where it came from, but he was able to do it. And once he did that, it made him stronger. And anything, to me, that has to be almost the ultimate, losing your child before you let go. And I guess what you're saying, Sean, is there were so many things that happened to you that you kept telling yourself it can't get any worse. If I can survive this, right, I can. Yeah. And that's how it works, right?
Pretty much. And you know, to be honest, like something happened along the way where when the bad stuff happens to me, I want to get around my people. I want to get around my tribe. I want to call Frankie. I want to call my sponsor. I want to get in the mix. Where the disease messes with me most is, you know, I used to talk about doing a lot of stuff from a bar room or a crappy apartment, you know, but I never did anything. So add sober, and I'm blessed to be able-bodied. I've been on a lot of vacations. I've been on cruises. It's when I'm in the middle of the Caribbean, everything's perfect. And I see them, I always joke, I see those little drinks with the hats and the straws, and I'm like, man, that looks amazing, you know? And then, but luckily, like, I can play that tape through like it's not going to be amazing. Like, I'll drink that, and then I'll steal your shit and help you look for it.
It's too funny. Somebody said to me the other day, they were like, well, but just have one. And I always say the same thing every time. I'm like, yeah, I'll have one. And then I'll call you 3 months, or you could come find me because I'll be up on that corner with in 3 months, I will go from that one drink and I'll be panhandling looking for my dope.
Mm-hmm. I had, I didn't talk about my music much, but I was in the band and kicked out. And then after 8 years of sobriety, I got back in the band. We reunited. We played for a couple of years, recorded, and it's pretty cool, man. It turns out as a sober musician, I'm way better, you know. And,
crazy how that works.
Yeah, write better. I perform better. And we played a show at the Chance one time, and I'm out loading my stuff in because, you know, I don't have roadies or anything. And you know, and this guy comes up and he's like, "Hey, man, that was a cool show." He's like, "Here, let's smoke this blunt with me." And I was like, "Nah, man." I said, "I don't do that. I'm straight edge. You know, it doesn't bother me." And he's like, "Oh, well, let me know how that works out out for you. And he walked away. And I said, okay. I said, well, let me know how that works out for you. And, just joking. It was lighthearted. And then I'm loading my stuff. And then a little bit later, he comes up. He's like, what do you mean? And I was just like, I said, I'm in recovery, dude. Like I said, I used to do that. And I said, now I don't, And he's like, oh, it was just kind of cool. Like, because so he was probably feeling some of the feelings I was feeling when I was still out there. And, and one of the cool things that they say, that it's the 10-step promises, and I don't know them verbatim, but basically what it says, when we're spiritually fit and we can go into the real world and do absolutely anything. So I was able to go back into the band. And like I said, we're not, we're not Leonard Skinner or anything like that. So we're not playing big shit, we're playing bars and seedy shit. And, but I was in a spot where I could go there, feel confident, and not drink. And like I have a reputation in the underground hardcore scene, like I'm just straight edge. Everybody knows it, and sometimes people don't know me and they'll offer me a beer, and it's really become like I don't drink. And I used to think everybody'd be so worried about that I'm not drinking, but as it turns out, nobody gives a shit at all. So it's man, what a gift to take myself out of the center of the universe and just become a person in the world and be a friend amongst friends. And, so life is good sober, man. I am not giving it up to
Couldn't agree more, brother. You guys got anything else for Sean?
Well, first of all, Sean, thanks for your service and welcome home from the Marine Corps. We're proud of you for that, but we're more proud of you. You're more of a warrior for what you went through than you did in the Marine Corps, buddy. Trust me. You fought a battle that a lot of people don't win, and you're winning. And every day you're doing it a day at a time. I understand that.
Yep.
But you're winning.
Yeah.
And that's something to be proud of.
Yeah, no, I'm proud to be a part of that team, because we're winning. And, and also if like, can I plug the Vet Center?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's because I recently, I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I said that. I recently started as a peer specialist at the Vet to Vet in Ulster County. It's the
Veteran Reintegration Center.
Veterans Reintegration Center. I work
Great
there
operation.
Thursdays and Fridays, and I get to like help veterans with a lot of different things. But I host an AA meeting there on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Almost nobody ever comes, but if anybody comes, I'll be there. So like it just feels good to have that as well, where I can help any veterans out there, that, maybe just want to talk about, substance abuse, or maybe you don't feel like you need to talk about substance abuse. You want to talk about whatever, like you're not alone out there, man. So like we can all stay alive today.
So, yeah, this is a we thing.
Sean,
we do this together.
I'm
Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
So, Sean, is that the National Center for Veterans Reintegration,
Yes.
Berkeley Heights?
Yes, the old Nelsons.
With Debbie Gambino?
Yeah, yep.
So Thursdays at 1 o'clock.
Thursdays at 1 o'clock.
You're
there's an
hosting
AA
a meeting. Now, to tag team on that, I'm sure you've heard it. What are your thoughts, or what would you say to somebody who says, I'm going to be able to do this on my own. I don't need support. I don't need AA. What would you? What are your thoughts on that?
This could sound crass or whatever, but like you can't help those who don't want to be helped. So I wouldn't be mean in any way, but I would tell them if that's what you feel, I hope it's true, But if you find that you can't, I'm here to help. Like, that's what it is. Because I actually see that a lot. And, but yeah, like there's no judgment. There's zero judgment from me. Like there's zero judgment from me if you come in, try and relapse, come back in, man. We do not shoot our wounded, man. We lift each other up. But like if somebody says something like that to me and they're serious about it, chances are there's nothing you can say to make them stay. I would say, maybe try to give it a try, but, other than that, like I can't chase people's recovery either, which is sad, because this disease is brutal. This disease tells us we do not have a disease. Yeah. How crazy is that? Like somebody with cancer or diabetes, they would go to the appropriate places. And then also the stigma, like people with cancer and diabetes, people say, oh, they have cancer and diabetes, but like people with addiction, people get, looked down upon.
Yeah,
man,
you get
like,
judged.
Yeah, and it's just so like, Yeah, no, there's no need to be judged. And, maybe people that feel that way should come to a couple of open AA meetings or come check it out. But I find it hard to believe that there's that many people out there that have not been touched by this. But, some people still feel that way.
It's amazing, Sean. We say it all the time that you just touched on it. If you break your arm or your appendix hurts, you go to a doctor and get treatment. Addiction is a disease. Mm-hmm. It's a physical disease, and if it doesn't get treated, it's going to kill you. Mm-hmm. And it's that simple. And it may take several times. You may go through recovery. A lot of people don't do it on the first try, maybe not the third or fourth try. But what Sean is telling you is he never gave up. And by not giving up, he's got the life he wants now. Frankie tells it all the time. He's got his kids back. He's living. I kid him all the time. I text him, man, you're living the best life. I'm so proud of you. And I am, because you are living your best life. And you tell me all the time, I would not even be here had I not got sober. And you're saying the same thing. So I would have killed you eventually.
Yeah. And for clarity as well, I was in and out of the rooms, relapsing a lot, probably 4 years before I got sober. And yeah, I was in, and then I was like, I got 1 day back, I got 1 day back, I got 1 day back. So relapse is a part of my story. It's a part of a lot of people's story, but it's not a requirement.
Yeah,
as
it
well.
doesn't have to be. That's right.
Because I've heard some people say too, well, you have to relapse to get recovery.
No.
That's completely untrue. Like,
no way.
If it happens, zero judgment. But like every time somebody relapses the way the world is now, you literally could be dead. They're putting fentanyl and all this stuff, and it's crazy. Like we're dying.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the show, Frankie, you said it's never about me, but I know in just a few short weeks you've got May 4th, you're 5 years sober, correct?
Yes, sir. May 4th.
And I couldn't be prouder of you, buddy. But
thank you.
My brother.
And Sean, you said you're 23 years now?
Yeah, October 5th, I had 23,
wow.
Yeah.
Now, those are stories that we need to tell, because everybody out there, I guarantee you, like I said, there's thousands of people listening to us right now that are like, holy mackerel, that sounds just like my story or as close to my story.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully, Sean, what happens is they can say, look, Sean did it, and he told you what he went through to get here. Maybe they can convince themselves that they can try at least, or they can do it.
And say, I want it to be my story, too.
Yeah.
It can be.
And real quickly, Frankie, my cell number is 845-401-2598. That's 845-401-2598. Now, I am not a recovering addict, but I put my number out there because if you call me, just tell me your name and where you're at, and I will get you to Frank or I'll get you to Sean, and they will help you. But my cell phone is on 24 hours a day, and tell me I've lost too many people to this. I don't want to lose another one, and I will help you get to the right person.
Yeah, and like Joe said, he'll have our info running across this the whole time. If you got direct questions for Sean, I will make sure that he gets it and get the response. And we'll go from there. This is a we thing. We do this together. And we're just going to keep putting stuff like this out to help as many people as we possibly can.
This is one of those shows that I am so proud of because,
Absolutely.
Sean, you told a story that only you could tell. Mm-hmm. And like I said, so many people are going to identify with that story. And if we help one person, we're a success. If we help one person, if that story you told convinces one person to at least try, then it's a success.
Well, and that's it too. It's about identifying, because there may be people out there that may, consider themselves way worse, way less. But if you can identify with not being able to stop or things like that, it's you can use this too, So it's
the overwhelming message is it's okay not to be okay.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
And you've got to accept that. Not only with addiction, it's in the veteran world, it's the same thing. It's okay not to be okay.
That's right.
But it's not okay not to get help because it'll kill you.
Absolutely. And again, Sean, I want to thank you so much for being here.
My honor.
I could go on and on what you mean to me, not only my recovery, but as my friend. And I can't thank you enough.
Well, it's been an honor to be here. It's always good to be with people that are reaching out and helping. And I thank you guys for adding value to the community.
Well, I just want to close with another fantastic testimony that is drawn straight from the heart with no pulling back, no holds barred, and this is what is really going to help, and this is the power. This is why when Uncle Mike referred to you as a hope warrior, this is why we've coined that term, Hope Warrior. It ain't easy, but together we can accomplish an awful lot. And I thank you, Sean, so much.
You know, it's one of those things where you hear the phrase all the time, you know, you can talk the talk, but Sean and Frank have walked the talk, and that's the difference. And trust me, there's things that you haven't even thought of that these guys have gone through. And just by talking to them, you never know what you're going to learn, or you never know what they're going to tell you. Hey, I was there and I did this and it worked. And that's the beauty of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you need help, reach out. We will be here. We're going to be putting more of these out. There's going to be more stories of recovery, more stories of hope. And the reason we're doing this is so to let you know you are not alone, and we are here to help.
And real quickly, if you're a family member or a loved one listening to this, and you have someone in your life that is really struggling and won't get help, it's okay. You can call us too, because Frank and Sean can help in that situation too.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes hearing from another person in recovery makes all the difference in the world. You know, both of you with your families wanted to help you in the worst way, and but they had no idea what to do.
Yep.
So that's why this is important too. Any family member, any loved one, you're out there, you got a guy you buy coffee from every day, and all of a sudden you notice he's struggling. Reach out. If it's nothing, and one of these guys talk to him, then it's nothing. But if it's something, they might be able to help him. And you're part of this too. The families are a huge part of this, and they've got to get. Telling somebody to grow up and get over it is not going to help them. That's going to make them worse.
Yeah.
But if you reach out to somebody that can actually help, then you're going to do something, and you may save their life.
And family members and people, Al-Anon is a huge tool.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
But yeah, no, Al-Anon is great for the non-alcoholics with alcoholics in their life.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you both. Thank you, Sean, for coming, and Frankie, and of course Joe. Always, it's great to be here. I'm humbled and honored just to be part of this. So we'll be back next month with another edition, and I hope you enjoy this one.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks again.